All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Getting started a little bit early today. I was up early, so I was like, well, we might as well do some play testing, or not play testing. What am I saying? Might as well do some development. I was gonna say because the Alchemortis playtest is still available. So if you haven't tried it yet, head on over to the Steam page. It's linked below. You can join the playtest from here, and you can also give a wish list to the game. I would appreciate that. And yeah, we also got the Patreon. If you want to support development, your Patreon support is still very much appreciated to help with development here. So subscribing at either tier gets you a number of perks, but if you subscribe to the top tier for at least 1 month, you will get an Alchemortis Steam key for the full game sent to you, and your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So if that sounds good to you, definitely consider it. And you can also purchase my Udemy courses. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. Alrighty. So all those things are linked below. I think the most important thing that you could do if you want to support the game is join the playtest, play the game, give me your feedback, and then yeah, that would be much appreciated. Okay, so what are we going to be doing today? I'm kind of in a moment of development here where it's like there's a lot of quality of life things to do, but I also need to start like getting work done on the content, because I've got like half of the content that I want to have in the game. And so yeah, I'm just gonna have to start creating boatloads of content for the remaining development time. I was working last night and this morning on a combat log rework, and that's going to be pretty difficult, I think. The technical side of it is pretty straightforward, but the UI side of it is not so straightforward. So I need to think on that. I was thinking I would work on that on the stream today, but that would largely just be me being stumped. So I just need to think about that some more. But the one thing that I do want to try is showing diffs in the tooltip before upgrading. So showing you what's going to change on an item when you upgrade it. And I have some ideas for how to get this to work. And I don't know how realistic those ideas are, but we will figure it out. Anyway, hello Clickertail, welcome. Good to see you. Abo, welcome back. Good to see you. Good morning, the Malicious Rabbit. Welcome. Define Dottie, good morning. How's everyone's day going so far? Going well so far. Still plenty of time in the day for that to change, but yeah, so far so good. Hello, Light Tiramisu. Welcome. Good morning. Okay. So let's take a look at the upgrade. I'm hoping this will be relatively easy. So the idea is you go here. Well, that's not going to do anything. So I do this, and it would show, like, it would highlight basically what changes. So I don't know if this is going to be a good idea, but what I am thinking about doing is so if we look at the skeleton commander, for example, where is it? So all the skeleton commander abilities here. So for example, undead turn cooldown reduction here. Reduce the cooldown of blah, blah, blah by X seconds. This has a description template parameters func that returns the current turn cooldown as a string or a float, magnitude to seconds. So what I'm thinking about doing is if I could I think what I may be able to do. Okay, now the cat is meowing. Get out. Go. I'm gonna kick you out, cat. Come here. Come here. Go. Ugh. Okay. All right. He has an uncanny ability to start meowing right in my ear when I'm trying to think about something. Anyway, so what I'm thinking about doing is I think I could I almost think what I could do is I could. So this is a base composed ability. We've got scale for tier. Honestly, what I could do is I could duplicate every ability on the item, increment the tier to what it's going to be upgraded to. And then when I call get description, what I may be able to do here so description template parameters func. What I may be able to do here is somehow inject in here some extra sentinels in the string to mark that a certain range of the string needs to be colored differently with BB code. I'm thinking that I may be able to do that. How am I going to do that though? So I have this description template parameters func, get description. I may just be able to do something like, if I did something like this, if I did public string get upgrade diff description. And then what I say is I do int for tier, or maybe we'll do something like target tier. Okay, so I do this, right? And then I duplicate this. So I do var duplicated is equal to duplicate. So that gives me basically the same exact ability. And then I say duplicated, scale for tier, target tier. So, okay, so that creates a new instance of this same ability with the scaled tier. And then what I can do is I can say var new description template parameters func. This actually needs to be func object like so. So what I'm going to do here is I will invoke, so var old, or let's do var current parameters. is equal to description template parameters func dot invoke, and do var new parameters is equal to, oh wait, this needs to be, yeah, duplicated description template parameters func dot invoke. So what we'll do is we'll say we'll just do if current parameters is equal to null, or new parameters is equal to null. We'll just return the current parameters. And then we're also just going to do an extra check if current parameters dot length is not equal to new parameters dot length. This should never happen, but we just want to make sure that we're not, going to run into index out of range issues when we're generating this. Okay, so now what I need to do is I basically just need to do return new parameters dot select, and I'm just going to do this very basic for now. I'm probably going to change this, but what we're going to do is we're going to do color is equal to game constants dot color light green dot to how do I do that? How do I do a color to hex code? Get hash code? Nope. Now, okay, let me go to description utils. Oh, to HTML is what it's called. Okay. And then we put inside of here, we do the, we just put X inside of there, and then we do slash color to array. Okay, so essentially what I'm doing here is the other thing that I want to do is I want to say, can I get the index here? Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. If current parameters I is equal to new parameters I, so if they're unchanged, we're just going to return current parameters I. Otherwise, we will return this. So do you see how this is working? So basically, we create a duplicate of the ability. We scale that new ability for the target tier that we're looking at. We invoke both template parameters funcs to get the things that are going to be replaced in the string. And then for each of those parameters, we say for each parameter that changed, we want to actually wrap it in a color. Now, I think what we could do here is I could do func object parameter func override, or let's do parameter override func. We'll just set that to null by default. And so we'll do parameter override func dot invoke null coalescing to the default, null coalescing to empty. And then what I can do here is I can just do return get description with this new, let's see, to new description template parameters func. I can use a local function. I guess that works. Let's do parameter. Okay, so I'm essentially just replacing the function that gets all the parameters that need to be put into the description string templates. Okay. So I think that will work. Now, the thing is I need to figure out how to call this in that upgrade context. So how do I want to do this actually? I need to tell the tooltip that I need to invoke this one ultimately. Hello, Mel's. Hello, Artem. Welcome. Emerson, welcome back. Good morning, 2x speeding to catch up to live. Welcome, the real FLDB. Good to see you. What does the question marks do? Those are null coalescing, or those are null chaining. Basically what it means is that if the object that has the question mark is null, then it won't proceed. So if this function is null, it won't invoke the function and it will just return null. Makes it optional to have that value. Use the left-hand side if it's not null and the right-hand side if it is. Does it work the same way as in TypeScript? I believe so, yeah. I haven't done TypeScript in a minute, but I believe it does. Okay, so how do we get the tooltip to use this? I'm trying to think how generalized I want to make this. Hello, David Martinez, Leon Rune, welcome. Good to see you. I really don't know what to do here. I need a way of telling the tooltip that I should use the upgrade text instead. This is kind of weird. I have tooltip hooks. Add card tooltip hook. Why is this here, I wonder? The problem is this card tooltip is... It's like tightly coupled to the card mouse events manager, but it's also a standalone scene. So part of me is like, I wonder if I should just put the card tooltip as a child of the card mouse events manager. Because there was a period of time in the game where, you know, I could use the tooltip as a standalone scene, but I streamlined it, I simplified it, so there's ever only one card tooltip in the tree. The other problem is I need a way of telling it which tier it needs to use. Okay, so there's a couple of things. So I basically need to go from the tooltip. I need to pass the tier information into the tooltip so that it can ultimately get down to this ability label, wherever that is. Here, configure for ability. It needs to like have a target tier supplied. All right, let's just do something very simple. This is going to be a little bit kind of messy, but I think it's probably the best thing I can do right now without restructuring a bunch of stuff just for this. So let's do card to tier preview. Okay. Am I connecting? Connect to pre-delete unregistered card to tier preview dot remove card. Okay, so card to tier preview. I need to clean some of this stuff up. Oh, never mind. Okay, invoke tooltip hooks, exhaustively find displacement position for card. What do I call this? Okay, All right. Oh, that makes more sense, I guess. All right. So now in my card tooltip, what I can do is I can do int tier preview equals null. Okay, so var card tier preview is equal to oops, no, not add file to chat. Find all references. I don't think this needs to be public, so we'll make that private. I'm also just going to pass in the card mouse events manager here. Actually, yeah, we'll do that. Get card tier preview for card. Card tier preview. Grab this. All right. So hopefully that's fine. And then in my ability label, I need to do if tier preview. And then we'll pass in that description there. All right, so now in my upgrade container, on card placed, what we want to do private void get tier let's do get tier target. Increment that. Where's my hammer artifact count? We'll grab this. Okay. And then we can return upgrade target. And then we can do private int capped tier target for card. Let's rename this to get additional tier target. Okay, and then we can do return mathf.max of, or mathf.min rather, of base card.tier plus additional target. Base card.get max tier. Okay. Hello from Brazil. Hello, Tassiano. Welcome, welcome. Wait, someone else said it's likely a ternary operator. Yeah, there's ternary operators. There's no coalescing, nullish coalescing. Do you think it's better to learn the basics of C# before learning the engine for a beginner? Well, you don't have to use C# with Godot, but yes, I generally think that learning some programming fundamentals is a good idea before you do game engine stuff if you don't have programming experience. And the reason is because you'll have two learning curves that you'll need to manage, right? You need to learn how to build games in the engine, but then you also need to learn programming fundamentals. And it's like, those are separate learning curves that you're like adding together when you start. And so you're making your learning curve steeper than it otherwise would be. List, question mark, some list. Well, the thing is lists in C# are null by default, so you don't need to specify that they can be null. Unless, I think there's actually like a flag, like a build flag you can use, or a project setting that forces you to have to explicitly define nulls. But I got the course, but I'm using GDScript. I'm a programmer, and your course is awesome. Thanks. You're welcome. Glad to hear that. Hello, Ninja Link. Welcome. We are adding diffs to the upgrade encounter, so you can see what's changing on the item. Okay, so we're gonna do add card tier preview, and we're gonna do get capped tier target for card base card ref dot value. So now let's refactor some of this as well. Get rid of this. Cool. Alrighty. We also want to do on card removed, I think. All right. Moment of truth. Let's see if I did it correctly. Yes, indeed. Woohoo. Said that by accident. I was going to write a new example of null assignment like var list. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. That makes sense. Why using C# instead of GDScript? I just find it easier to structure the kind of game systems that I'm writing in C#. That's all. It's all personal preference, though. Ooh, look at that. Did it work first try? It's a little bit hard to tell still what changed, but all the numbers that changed are now green. So we could do something fancier with this. But yeah, you can actually see what's changing now. And if I add the hammer artifact, four damage, 0.7 seconds. Yeah, so that's taking into account correctly. Add artifact, calipers. Add artifact, calipers. That's not correct. So I have 3 hammers and 2 calipers. Let's just do a bunch of them, I guess. Now we'll just recreate it exactly. So why is that not being formatted correctly? So if I go to my skeleton commander, I think it's clobbering that time format. Is it? Right. Yeah, I think it is. I need a different way of wrapping. Because what's happening is like, so this time format is, 0:0.0 to force it to be just one decimal place of precision. But what I'm doing is, since this is a number here, I'm actually returning a string instead of a number there, so it's losing its formatting. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, aside from... I was not anticipating that. I think it would be more helpful to see the hold value with like a +1 next to it, so you can see the full picture. Well, I mean, I can do that. Like, I think what I do The problem is, like, it's not always the case that it's going to be numbers, I don't think. I think there could potentially be strings as well. I don't know if I have any situation like that, but... But if I do something like this... And then I do... I actually don't know if my font supports this, but we're gonna see. Old and not hold, yeah. So we take the old value, color it red, and then we take the new value and color it green. We add a little arrow in between. I don't know if the arrow is, the character for the arrow is in this font though. So I may use a different thing, but let's see. It's kind of there. It's a little bit long. Is there a different arrow character? That arrow character is not doing well. So, I mean, we could just do... current parameters, and then in parentheses, like that. I have to figure out this string formatting issue, though. What do you think of enabling global nullables, meaning your IDE yells at you if you don't use nullable types and put equals null everywhere? I personally like the reminder to handle nulls. Yeah, I mean, I think it can be helpful. For me, it's just like, I know that reference types can be null, and so I just make sure to handle that. But, you know, the extra safety can't hurt. What happened here? I just completely bungled it, that's all. Okay. Could put the old value in parentheses. Yeah, there's a way to do this, for sure. I mean, that's just stylistic stuff. The problem is, like, if this is an int, it's gonna display the decimals as well. Oops, ran the wrong scene. Haven't been here from the start, but I'm just interested to know, how did you create these more dynamic and formatted labels, tooltips, or whatever you use for the pop-up information? Just the rich text label. The rich text label allows you to do all kinds of things, like change the color of a certain word or series of words. You can add images in line with the text. So that's how I'm getting like the little icons. Let's do something interesting here. Let's see. I'm just gonna draw my own arrow. Nope. Just keep it like that, I suppose. Okay. I'm just going to save it here. Diff arrow. Okay. So we add the diff arrow in here. Okay, let's grab the UID for this. Okay, and then we get rid of the parentheses. Let's see what that does. I swear I've been following your Twitch for a while. Yeah, maybe I used to stream on Twitch and then I didn't for several years and now I'm back. I'm sure you've heard this a million times when I saw the video from you the other day. Very informative stuff. Awesome, thank you. Glad to hear that, Planet Blue Toe. Glad to hear that. Okay, all right, that looks pretty cool. I think that's a little bit more parsable. I think maybe I'll just move this up though. Yeah. Oh, and but the card inspector doesn't bring it up in that way. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So we still have the problem of like the numbers not being formatted correctly. So I'm going to need to figure that out. But how are we feeling generally speaking about this view? Are you guys liking the diff view so far? This should hopefully help with understanding like what's going to change. Why did that one? See, it says awards a Fungus giganticus spore to Fungus giganticus spore. Why does it detect that as being different? I'll have to fix that. I'm actually planning on a new project in Godot. I mostly make simple games and for fun, but I'm just looking for a UI tutorial that helps with control nodes and other elements like rich text labels. Yeah, controls are hard. They can be hard to wrap your mind around. But once you get an understanding of it, it's very powerful, pretty easy to use. Your color palette looks great. Thank you, Dan Gurup. I appreciate that. All right, tell you what, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. We got to figure out why this is saying the fungus spore is different. And we also need to figure out the floating point stuff. Because obviously we don't want to do 0.9000004. That's obviously not something we want to do. Your Steam page looks sick. Thank you, Sasquatch Mark. I can't talk today. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, I'll be back in just 3 minutes and we'll continue on. Okay, I'm back. Let's figure out why this giant mushroom is detecting a diff. I sure hope it's not. Spore card definition localized name. Why is this different? Well, we might as well just put a breakpoint here and see. Godot Nears. Yeah, that's I think I've seen that channel before. I remember being impressed with their content. Get rid of this. All right. I want to see why these are different. Do I need to use equals here? All right. Okay. That should fix that. We still have the issue of that formatting being lost, which I actually don't know how I'm going to fix. May have to consult the Oracle. We may have to consult the Oracle. All right. Let's consult the Oracle. All right. In this method, I'm doing a replacement of the parameters, which are defined in abilities. For example, on skeleton commander. However, replacing the parameter func means I lose the original formatting. For example, to limit floats to 1 decimal place. Is there any way to override the parameters while preserving the string formatting? What do you want? This cat is being annoying. What? Come here. Oh my goodness. Hey, look at the camera. Goodness gracious. He's very good. Hello, Dione. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you again. I'm doing well. How are you doing? Good to see you. I don't know what this cat's deal is. What is your deal, buddy? What is your deal? Okay. Wow, the Oracle's taken a long time to think about this one. Template, .NET composite format applies those specifiers to the string format button. Get the override builds a string. Template specifiers then is applied to a string arg where it's ignored, so the formatting is lost. Yep. So I think I just need to figure out this formatting issue, and then I also need to make it work in the card inspector. And then we should be good to go. Let's see what it says. I wonder what... I have a feeling it's going to come up with some, like, very bad nonsense, but we'll see. Apply each placeholder's format specifier to both the old and new value before composing the diff string. Rewrite the override and get upgrade diff description. Get parameter format specifiers. Formatted current. Format specifier. I mean, I guess that works. Okay. I mean, I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to do regex matching, but I guess I have to. AI has a thing of just pinpointing anything as a reason for a bug, yeah. All right, well, we'll just take these. I will just go with that solution because I don't know if there's a different way around that without ballooning the complexity. Get parameter format specifiers. Format argument. Yeah, so it's basically just putting the format specifier in there. So this returns anything, the colon and anything after it. And then it takes the value there. Okay, and then we go to base composability. So we say we do that. I think that's right. And then we just put this in here. Okay. So does this handle null? Let me just make sure that I did that right. Oh, string dot, it needs to be string dot empty by default. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Hello, V, welcome. Good to see you. All right, let's see if it works. Whoops, wrong one. Hello, Divine Wind, welcome. All right, it worked. So we're preserving the integers, we're limiting the floats to whatever their format specifier was. Yeah, that sounds good. Cool. All right, so now I just need it to make it so that way when I open this, it shows the same thing. So we'll do that. We'll do that. How do I want to do this? Maybe I'll just do the same thing. Okay. Let's see if that works. I'm fairly confident that's going to work because it's the same code fundamentally, like it's the same label. So if I do this and I do that, look at that, boom. Nice. Very cool. Oh, there was a problem though with like the swarm ability. Hmm. Well, that's another wrinkle. So that rewrites the whole... That rewrites the whole ability. Oh no, that's not good. What are we gonna do about that? So this is replacing that whole ability text. I mean, I know why that's happening. I just don't know what I'm gonna do to fix that. In any case, show upgrade preview in what? Show upgrade preview in card inspector. All right, let's take a look at Swarm then. Let's see what we can do about that. What am I going to do about this? So this just inserts the string there. Hmm. So this is just getting the string and it's replacing it in here. But what I really need to do is, like, whenever I'm using an abilities description as a template parameter, I almost need to do get upgrade diff description here. What am I going to do about that? One thing that I'm thinking about doing is just passing in the duped ability itself. So if I detect that I'm passing in a composed ability as a description template parameter, then that means that I need to fetch the description there. And then that way in the diff view, I can detect, oh, is this object a base composed ability? If so, call this other method on it. So that's one approach. Another approach is to maybe add another function here. Something like this, which would be like int target tier or something like that. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. Hello, Helkios Games. First time catching your stream, but I played the game's demo and loved the absolute crazy builds you can make. Awesome, thank you. Glad you liked it. Yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. Why not use GDScript? Is it because it's not good? Because that's what I'm learning right now? No, it's fine. GDScript is fine. It's just I think it's easier for me to build the game in C# with all the structure I get. I think GDScript is really good, but devs with professional software development backgrounds seem to prefer C#. I think that's probably true. Is C# hard to reverse engineer? I don't think so. No. I don't think so. No worries. Welcome back, Evan. I don't know what to do here. Balancing a new faction of mine is going to be fun. Yeah. Balancing is always fun. GDScript has some limits, specifically with types, compared to even something like Python with MyPy. Nodes being nullable by default always kills me. Man, I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I almost wonder, can I create like a wrapper object? Maybe I can do like, I don't know, I'm just gonna start stubbing something out here. I don't know where to put this. Where did I put description utils? I'll just put it here for now. Public string get description int preview tier. If preview tier is equal to null, then we're going to return composability.get description. Else we're going to do var dupe is equal to composability.duplicate dupe.set scale for tier preview tier dot value, return dupe dot get upgrade diff description. Oh wait, I can just do this. Okay, so now what I can do is, this is going to take a little bit of work, but what I can do here is I can do inner ability description wrapper dot from duped ability. And then when I'm doing the formatting, let's just get the default working correctly. So when I do get description, so we do format description. Object, new args, or maybe adjusted args is equal to new object args dot length. For var I equals 0, I is less than adjusted args dot length I plus plus. If args I wait, is this gonna work? If args I is inner ability description wrapper, no, not return. We're going to do adjusted args I. Now, wait a minute. I could just do this. Oh, wait. Adjusted args I equals args. Yeah, I was on the right track. Okay. We replace this with adjusted args. And then I think what I can do is, if I go to my base composed ability here, Is this gonna work? Right, I was on the right track before. I don't know why I was overthinking this. This does need to go here. So basically the default get description will just return the base description, but here I can pass along the target tier here. So essentially when we're generating the diff, the upgrade diff description, what we're gonna do is we're gonna check if one of the parameters, or if the parameter we're on is an inner ability description wrapper. We're just gonna make sure that both of them are that. We're gonna return the wrapper get description, but with the modification here of the preview tier. And then otherwise, if we get to this point, like if we, so this is gonna return a string. But if we don't return a string, if the arguments are, if one of the arguments is an inner ability description wrapper, then what's gonna happen is that's just gonna get the description. So that's gonna create an adjusted args array that replaces that object with a string. Now I think the other thing I could do is I could do like a public override string to string here. And I could just return composedability.get description. Or I could just, for simplicity's sake, I could do get description here. And then I think I probably don't even need to do this check anymore. I can probably actually just get rid of this, because then I think the string format will use the toString override. So I actually don't even need to do this. So if we pass along an args object that contains an inner ability description wrapper, it's just going to go ahead and print the ability description there. But in the case of like overriding it for the diff, we call get description with the target tier, and that's going to insert a string. So it's actually going to take the current parameters I will be an inner ability description wrapper, and the new parameters will be that. But we're actually just going to replace that with a raw string. I think that will work. At least it works in my mind. The only problem is now I need to identify all the places in the code where I'm doing this kind of thing, which shouldn't be in that many places, but we're going to have to see if that is the case. But hopefully what this will do is this will just generate the string properly for me. So let's see. So that's correct. Confuse one random enemy item. And then I go here and I put this here. Confuses 5 random enemy items. So that updated it. It just didn't do the diff. Why didn't it do the diff? So it updated the text, but it didn't do the diff. Interesting. What the heck, man? Anyway. Moments of staring at the code and not knowing what to do, yeah. I think C# should be harder to reverse engineer than GDScript if you use AOT compilation and don't include debug symbols. I think there's like some edge cases where AOT doesn't work for Godot. I don't remember what. Do I have a spreadsheet for balancing? I don't. No, I don't. I have a very funny surprise for anyone trying to reverse my games with most of the code written using GD extension. Oh yeah, that nice. I think one would be able to use my DLLs with the editor, but decompiling them would be a very different conversation. Look, my opinion is like if Slay the Spire is okay with their code being decompiled, then I don't see any reason why I should be concerned about it, you know? Hello, David. What advice can you give to somebody who started OOP with inheritance and now can't switch to using composition in projects and gets stuck every time? I don't know. I mean, I'm still using OOP very heavily. I am doing like more functional stuff too. So like my abilities, the way I define my abilities is like, I guess it's kind of like functional. So I've been finding that to be useful. Like instead of trying to provide functionality through an inheritance tree, I instead like pass in lambdas and stuff to define the functionality. And that seems to work pretty good. But yeah, I wish I could say something more intelligent, but I don't know. I don't really have any good insight on that. Still, render my code is very hard to steal for profit because it would be really easy to prove my ownership. Yeah. Feels like a mess when I don't use inheritance. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really know the context. Basically, the way that like composition would work if you're using nodes for your composition is each node provides a very specific, each component provides a very specific set of functionality. And then the way you tie that functionality together is through a script on like the root node. So you obviously have to use the Godot inheritance when you're like inheriting node or node 2D or whatever else. But then when it comes to like the gameplay scripting, you basically, your root script would be the orchestrator between all the components, right? So you would like connect the signals on some components, you would call methods on other components. The idea being it's like, it's not too dissimilar because like Godot is composition based by default if you think about it, right? Like when you need to create a scene, what do? You say, okay, well, I have a node 2D because I need the transform. And then I need an animation player, so I include the animation player component. And then I need a bunch of sprite 2Ds for all the different body parts, like for this character. So I just add all the sprite 2D components and I configure them the way that I want. But then these things don't do anything by themselves. Like they need to have a script that ties all those things together, that relates all of those things together and makes them function as a unit, right? So like you can think of like your root script in this case, my character root script, as like being the orchestrator of everything, right? Like I've set up all my data, I've configured everything, and now the functionality just needs to tell everything how it needs to work together, right? And you'll notice here that I'm using an interface for my characters because like play, run, reset scale, get bounding box, like these things are going to vary quite a bit from character to character, but I know that I'm always going to want to like call the run animation and reset the scale and get the bounding box. So that's another way of using composition in C# is to do it through interfaces and whatnot, but start with a nice composition approach, then I inevitably start having the components really reach into each other, at least requiring references for signals. Yeah, and that's what the orchestrator is for, right? Like, obviously, it's going to be the case that a component is going to need to be able to know what another component is doing. And it's also not like the greatest sin in the world to have components rely on each other to some extent, like to couple them a little bit. Because like if you think about it, like an animation player, it doesn't do anything unless you have something to animate, right? And so you're actually reaching into all these components and like changing their state. But that's what you have to do. The animation player is not truly standalone. Like it doesn't do anything if it can't animate anything, right? So there is a certain amount of coupling between an animation player and at least some other components, because otherwise it just doesn't do anything, right? Maybe in a case of like an action game or like a shooter, you might have a health component and a hurt box component, and they might connect to each other, right? Because it's like, I don't want to write the boilerplate to like tell the health component to decrease its health amount by the amount of damage coming in through the hurt box component. So I'll just like make those two reference each other, and then they can just like by default automatically work together. Like I don't think you need to be like dogmatically adherent to like, no, the component needs to be purely agnostic. Like I think it's okay to like have some components that like implicitly require other components to function properly. Have you looked into ECS architectures? Currently building a custom game engine and found it to be an interesting way to think about objects and systems. I have not done ECS, no. I don't think Godot has one. No, it doesn't have one like out of the box, I don't think. Instead of having direct reference inside the components themselves, I should have it all go through the root node. And look, like the dependencies are fine too. Like if you have a, you might have a health component node and then you might export a reference to like a hurtbox node. And then as long as you're like handling the fault condition, right? Which is that what happens if I did not supply a hurtbox component? Like it should still function in terms of like not crashing your game, right? So you just build it to be fault tolerant, even if you are having like dependencies or coupling. And as long as you do those two things, you make your dependencies clear, you make it in a fault tolerant way so it doesn't crash if a reference is missing, or error if a reference is missing, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think you just want to try to avoid, like only generalize what truly can be generalized. And for anything that's like not generalizable, then you use like a root script to tie all those things together. My ailment component needs a reference to the health component because I need to know when the enemy dies so I can trigger on death effects. Right, yeah, exactly. Anything as I apply and anything I can apply as an ailment will have a health value, so the dependency isn't going to break anything. Yeah. I think that's fine. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do with this issue. I'm close to fixing this issue, I think. So we have the maggot. Let's do this. The maggot is a good test case for this, actually. The shrimp, as some people call it. So we add the maggot, and then we run this. So I should actually see a breakpoint here when I hover over this maggot. Oops. Wait, why is that being called every time? Oh, the Leviathan has a swarm ability as well. That's why. Okay, let's just see what's happening in here. So my preview tier is 5. If I do composed ability, get upgrade diff description. Oh, interesting, it's not doing the diff. Okay. This is apply 1 bleed, apply 5 bleed. So that is working. Calling wrapper, get description. Oh, I think I just made I just made an error here. We want to grab the reference to the current one and then upgrade it, not the reference to the new one. That makes sense. If all hurt boxes are expected to have a health component, there is no reason not to link them together. Right. I personally dislike subdividing my objects into components. Yeah, I mean, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. Oh, it works. Look at that. I'm a genius. The inner ability wrapper. Let's see if the Leviathan works. Confuse 1 to 5 random enemy. Oh. It's not being pluralized anymore. So this should say confuse 1 to 5 random enemy items. I almost feel like this needs to be reversed then. Like I need to get the pluralized version, which would be this version here. So close. So close. Well, what do I do here now? I almost need to reverse this, actually. What I probably should do is return duplicated .get description. So I'm returning the description of the item. I return the description of the upgraded ability. So I upgrade an ability to tier 5. I return that description because then it will have the plural form correctly. But the parameter override func actually needs to provide the initial values and not the new values. No, I could just do this because I'm already doing that. Does that work? Because then that will preserve the plural form. Hold up a second. Because I'm overriding the parameters in the same way, so it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. Oops, handle is not initialized. I don't know what that error is. Yeah, confuse 1 to 5 random enemy items. So that just updates the plural form. Yeah, that's all I need to do. All right. And since those overrides are still being supplied, that, you know, that BB code that replaces all that is still there. Yeah. I'm glad that was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. So now we just got to make sure to use that inner ability wrapper whenever I'm using an ability description as a template parameter, or as a template parameter argument. All right, we're slowly getting there. Wow, this is a lot more effort than I thought it was going to be. I mean, it's still not that complex. It's just I just have to make sure to use that object now. Okay, so now I think what I can do is I can just do something like this. So this would be inner ability description wrapper from added ability. Okay, all right. I could probably write a regex for this as well. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. When I come back, we will update the code with all of these things. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I'll be right back in just 3 minutes. All right. The end is nigh for this feature anyway. We just have to finish up using those inner ability wrappers. I'm actually very happy with that solution. It does require me to manually update a bunch of places, but I think that, you know, the nice thing about this too is that this will recurse as well. At least I think it will. So if I've got multiple levels of like inner abilities, so you could say like, I mean, we could try it out. I could create a reagent that adds a swarm ability, but this would be like adds the following ability, and this would be like swarm, and then this would be, you know, I wonder if I have anything like that. Like, do I have a project swarm? I think I do, don't I? Is it the standard? The battle standard? Yeah, this projects swarm. So this will be a good test case because this has, you know, oh, get description true, exclude prefix. Okay, I'm gonna have to handle that one. But this projects an ability, swarm, which wraps an ability. So that's like multiple levels of inner ability descriptions that would all need to be handled during the upgrade preview. Now, the one thing that I am missing though is that I need to exclude the prefix here, but I think I can probably do that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to see how that works specifically. That may actually be a problem. Yeah, I need to exclude the prefix. Okay, so how's this working? Exclude prefix. Do I need to just include that here? Let's see. My opinion on orchestrators is that it's better to have them as lean as possible in my stuff. Their role is usually disable enable stuff and propagate signals up. Obviously, the requirements will dictate just how much they will end up doing. I also noticed that my decisions change based on the size of the scene. Tend to wire up stuff in the editor for small scenes and encode for big overarching ones. Yeah. Should test the tapeworm. Isn't that like an ability inside an ability inside an ability? Yes, that's true. Yeah. So we'll want to test battle standard and also test tapeworm. Unfortunately, I am going to need to do something like bool exclude prefix equals false. Now, how does that work here? I guess I would just pass that along as well. I think that's fine if I just pass that along. So that means though that I need to go back to my ability builder. Oh no. Oh, I do need to, I actually do need to make this an argument here. Man, I hope this doesn't break anything. Well, we're gonna have to see how that works. We don't need this here though. Yeah. I think that's fine because like I set it up front. Yeah. So here I would do dot from, what is it? Dot from projected ability, and we exclude the prefix. Okay. Okay, so wait, this would be inner ability dot from create opponent chain poison true. So what I probably want to do is let's just do like a quick regex. If I grab this, I want to do a regular expression dot plus, and then we want to do dot get description. Okay. Self turn cooldown increase. That is a composed ability. So yes, this needs to be inner ability description wrapper dot from self turn cooldown increase. This would be inner ability description wrapper dot from echo true. Nested composed ability. So inner ability description dot from nested composed ability true. Ah, son of a biscuit. I have to do it multiple times for this one. That's actually okay though. So I'm going to test Grimoire as well. All right. I don't know if this would have caught everything. Forgot, what is white space? /S. I hope that's right. I don't know. Okay, so what do we need to test? Battle Standard, Tapeworm, and Grimoire. You know what I just realized too? Probably Flint is going to say it can be upgraded. Why? I don't know. Let's just do false. I have no idea if that's correct, but maybe it will be. Time for game dev once again. Hello, Jackie Daytona. Welcome, welcome. Mel's advice for planning a gamer project that won't leave you burnt out after a day or two. I find that it's helpful, like, get as minimal of a plan as you need to get started, and then just get started, you know? Like, you can plan as you go. I don't personally think it's that helpful to like plan out a lot of details ahead of time. Like, just get your core idea, get your theme. You probably have an idea for like a core mechanic, and then just like, I don't know, figure it out as you go. Because like, here's the thing, even if you spend a lot of time planning everything out, it's going to change anyway. So like, I think there's a certain amount of your planning effort is just going to be moot anyway. So get down the big overarching things that you want to do with the game. Like, what's the genre? What's the core mechanic? Maybe what the art looks like. And just start building stuff. And you can evaluate as you go on from there. That's what I do anyway. I mean, I think I've shown you the very early versions of Alchemortis before. Like, it literally just started with, I need to create a card class, and then I need to make that class like snap to the grid. And then I need to have like really basic auto battler where like some very, very small abilities can like be executed in the right order. And everything just got built on top of and refactored from there. All right, let's see. Battle standard. Projects to allied weapon items to the left. Swarm, deal 2 damage. All right, moment of truth. Look at that. Projects to allied weapon items to the left. Swarm, deal 2 to 6 damage. So that recurses exactly like I was expecting it to. That one also works. Tapeworm, okay. Wait, does that one not upgrade? Oh, it does. Okay, so that one doesn't work. So the tapeworm doesn't work. Why does this one work, but the tapeworm doesn't? And then I think flint is going to be upgraded. Yeah, apply 1 to 5 fire. I wonder, I mean, should I make reagents upgradable? Is there any reason not to do that? Oh, the reason not to do that is because abilities don't have tiers. Right. So even if the flint was upgraded, when you put it onto another item, it wouldn't do anything. Never mind. Never mind. So why does this one not work then? All right, let's take a look at the tapeworm specifically and we'll see what's going on. This one's got all kinds of weird stuff going on here. So this creates opponent chain poison. That creates a poison ability with this. Ability projector, create opponent chain poison magnitude. So this is like looping. Why does the tapeworm not work? Let me do this. I'm gonna simplify the tapeworm. Simplify the tapeworm, tapeworm project. We're gonna get rid of these things. We're just gonna do the tapeworm project here. And I'm gonna see if it's possible for me to follow the chain of logic in here. Which may be a little bit difficult, but well, you know what they say, you know, wise people that came far before me, they used to say YOLO. Okay. I think I know why this isn't working, actually. The problem is this inner ability does not have a tier scaling function. Why doesn't it have a tier scaling function? The reason that it doesn't have a tier scaling function is because this ability gets projected to an enemy card, but it retains the poison magnitude that came from the initial tapeworms tier. So when this gets added, but I don't think, let me think about this. I don't think that projected abilities scale though, if I'm not mistaken. Unless they do? No, they don't. This adds a projected composability. Yeah, it never scales. Projected abilities are not scaled. And even when I do call scale for tier, it's only reading the composed abilities, so not reading anything else here. Now, wait a minute. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit weird, but I think what I can do is I can do int original tier here, and then what I can do in this scaling function is essentially This whole tapeworm is just weird as heck. What if I did something like if I did a generic value provider and I passed in, or I returned to the current poison magnitude, and then here what I do is I say, if I just pass in this poison provider here, so what I'm doing is I'm making this, instead of being a raw scalar value, I'm wrapping it in a class that will invoke get value to return the current value. So I think that means that when I scale this ability and then I call get description on this ability, it will be reaching back to grab that current poison value. And then I can put the poison provider in here instead. Oh. I spelled poison wrong. Does that work? Made outfit when? Oh goodness, you don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Do you use signals? How come I've never seen signals in any of your code? I use signals, yeah. I mean, I have a whole game events thing stuffed with signals. The thing about this game, though, is that because it's an auto battler, it's hard to do the orchestration that needs to be done with signals. And so a lot of my game, a lot of the systems in my game are very top down, meaning like there's an orchestrator at the top, and then it is responsible for like iterating over things in order and calling specific functions on them. So because it's very top down, I have control over like the exact ordering of things happening. Signals are more for like if you have independent scenes or nodes that can be doing their own internal state modifications, and you need to listen for when those state modifications happen. So that would be like scenes, right? Like, did I press a button, or did this value in the UI change such that I need to, or did this value, like currency value change such that I need to update the UI? Those things are like very asynchronous, right? But when it comes to like the auto battler, which is a lot of the systems of the game, it just makes sense to do things in a very like top-down, predictable order. So I think that's probably why, like, you're not going to see any, and the other thing too is like these base cards, they're not Godot objects, so they can't do signals anyway. That didn't work either. Oh, I needed to make this. That is not working that way I was hoping. Nice to see my idea is still causing headaches. Yeah, I don't know exactly why this isn't working now, actually. What's up, Timothy Chalamet? Welcome. Welcome, Remedy. Hello, Michael Essien, welcome. So there's a clear difference between these two things. So when I call wrapper get description, it's going to go into composed ability get description. Get upgrade diff description. New parameters does not contain the new value. Right. So oh, wait a minute. Does this duplicate the tier? Oh, I think I may have found the issue. Hold on a second. No, it's doing duplicated scale for tier, target tier. So what's happening is, so this is wrapping an ability here, create opponent chain poison. That's this ability right here. And because it doesn't have a scaling function, the fact that it's being passed in that poison provider, it doesn't seem to make a difference. So wait, let me think about this. So the only ability that's being scaled is here. So let's think about this. So let me close a bunch of things here. I don't need this many things open. Okay. So what happens when we're generating the diff description is it encounters that this first argument is an inner ability description wrapper. And right here, it's creating a new chain poison. ability. Okay, so then it goes here. We'll just stop this. It goes here, it says, okay, the current parameters is an inner ability description wrapper, right? And so we're gonna call get description on it. So wait, so get upgrade diff description is called on wait a minute. Right. So this composed ability here, get upgrade diff description is called on it. It duplicates and scales the second ability that it's duplicating to the same or to the target tier that it's going to. And then what it does is it invokes the parameters of the existing ability and invokes the parameters of the duplicated ability. Okay. So parameter index 0 for both of these is going to be an inner ability wrapper. Inner ability description wrapper. That inner ability description wrapper contains, each of them contains a unique reference because this is creating the ability in line right there. So it detects that it's getting to a wrapper and it says, okay, now on this composed ability, we're gonna call get description on the wrapper. So we're going to go here. We're going to say our preview tier is this value. So we'll go to get upgrade diff description and we're back. We've recursed back into this, right? But now this upgrade diff description is being called on this composed ability here. Okay, so then it looks at the parameters for this one and it says, okay, this is an int, right? So it goes through, it says, okay, the parameters are not inner ability description wrapper, so we go away. If these parameters are equal, we just return. So the problem is fundamentally that between these two things, this poison provider get value is returning something, it's returning the same value, it's returning 2. So this current poison magnitude is not being updated. So let's just put this here. Let's put a breakpoint there. I'm expecting the breakpoint to be hit there. And then we're going to also invoke this description function here. So I understand how the logic is working. The problem is I don't know why I'm losing that updated poison value. I'm just going to... Okay. Let's just disable this breakpoint for now. And we'll also disable this breakpoint. Okay. Okay. So let's put these breakpoints back. Okay. And now I'll go here. All right. So my current poison value. Oh, it's invoking this one first. I was not expecting that. Oh, I'm in the wrong, sorry, I'm in the wrong thing. Classic. I need to go to an upgrade first. Okay, enable breakpoint, enable breakpoint. Love from Kenya. Thank you, Savannah Worm. Welcome, good to see you. Good to have you here. Sudo apt-get. Oh no. The tasteful thickness. Need more pointers in my life. Hello, Snup Bill. Welcome. Good to see you. With the message yummers. Okay. So current poison magnitude here is 6. That's what I expected to see. Now if I do generic poison provider, I should see 6. Okay. So this poison provider here now is 2. Why? Why? Right. I know why it's happening. Do I know why it's happening? So the fundamental problem, I think, is that this wrapper is referencing the non-upgraded So the non-scaled. So this is scaling up to the new tier. But what this wrapper does here so this wrapper, so this ability is being duplicated, this taper and project. But the wrapper that's being referred to is the wrapper that comes from the ability that was not scaled in tier. Right. So what's essentially happening is that when we get up to here, this create opponent chain poison, this is actually being created as part of the chain from the original ability and not from the scaled ability. And so when it recurses into here and goes again, that's not working. What am I going to do to fix that? I'm curious. What happens if I flip these around? Roses are red, violets are blue. OS remove. See Windows System 32. Very nice. I've embraced the Firebelly vibe balancing. Just change stuff on the fly. See what feels good. I'm not liable for any secondary effects that may have. I don't think modern Windows lets you do that, right? I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I wonder if there's a creative solution here. So instead of just trying to be clever and create a new opponent chain poison for every time this is invoked, I will just create a stable reference and pass it in there, even though this doesn't do anything. Is that gonna work? Did I figure it out? Nope. What in the heck? What is even going on here? So I think Battle Standard and Grimoire work, right? I tested those already. Yeah. What is the deal with the tapeworm? Why is this so difficult? Oh. Another day, another stumping. I really don't know what's going on here. Oh, it's, yeah, I know. It's the... Do I know? I'm really confused. Right. I think the issue is that it just fundamentally boils down to there is no scale for tier function here. No, but here's the thing that's confusing me. So this recurses in, right? We get here with this ability fundamentally. And I call duplicate. So let's do this actually. I want to see. Yeah, the fundamental problem is that we're duplicating the unscaled ability. We're duplicating this ability. We're scaling the duplicate. But then down here, we grab the initial one and we called get description on that. This is using that poison value of 2. It calls get description, but it passes along the target tier. But there's no scaling function here. So it just returns 2. So I think this is actually just a problem of like, I made the assumption that any inner abilities are going to have scaling functions. Why am I not using this second one again? No, wait, that's actually what I expect. So the parameter override func is providing all of the old values because I'm returning the duplicated's description. So this is the scaled abilities description, but with the parameters overridden such that it's the old values that it's providing. Well, it's not the old values. I mean, it's providing a string, which takes the current value and the new value. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the fundamental problem. It's assuming that the new duplicated ability, when scaled, will have all of its numbers updated properly. But when it recurses down, it's grabbing the initial inner ability wrapper. What happens if I do this? I just want to see if that fixes it for the tapeworm. It probably won't, but I asked you for some advice the other day, and thanks to what you said, I've made some progress and had more fun than ever. Turns out stuck is where you want to be. Big ups to you. Oh, well, I appreciate that. I'm glad to help. Gimmo T, glad to help. If you ain't going to add a romantic route, I'm going to make it myself. Okay, well, look, I hope that Alchemortis gets to the point where people want to decompile it and mod it and add romance arcs. Alchemortis would be a great success if that was the case. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do about this. What happens if I do something a little bit tricksy here? Never mind, I can't do that. The tapeworm is just a special case. My inclination is probably that I need to figure out how to rework the tapeworm. rather than trying to make this account for the tapeworm's oddities. Like, part of me just wants to do... just do this. I'm just doing this very sloppily right now. Like, I wonder if that would fix it, if I just defined a scaling function. The reason I don't want to do that is because that's a projected ability that gets added. But maybe that's okay. Yeah, so that works when it's got a scaling function provided. But I think I would ideally not have to do that, because the reason I didn't do a scaling function here is because, like, this ability gets added onto different entities, and I don't want the ability to change its damage. But the other thing too is that projected abilities don't scale when they get added onto items. So maybe it's just one of those things where I can say, okay. But the other problem too is, like, I'm worried that there's other situations like this where I have an inner ability that's managed by, like, an outer ability, and I don't want to provide a scaling function because I'm passing in the value. So yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. I'll have to think about that. Haven't been here in a while. What's new? What's popping? Just working. We're doing trying to get diff views working for the upgrade, so you can see what numbers are changing. Yeah, but anyway. I will have to figure that out later. But we're approaching 3 hours on the stream, so I'm going to go eat lunch. But hope you enjoyed the extra long stream today. And again, if you are interested, you can try Alchemortis. It's available for playtesting right now on Steam. So head on over to the Steam page, click this request access. You can join the Discord, let me know what you think. What else? I think that's it. All right. Thank you all for your support, and yeah, I will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. All right, bye-bye.